Hello, Tungsten Miner here. This time I figured I would give an update on how this building is coming along. Last time I mentioned that I was going to do the big sketch and showed how that worked. And then I was going to go start filling in some details, which I have been doing. So actually, let me get rid of that waypoint. It's kind of making things a little difficult. Here we go. All right, so I've been spending a lot of time with the Chisels and Bits mod, which allows you to make these kind of 1/16th size squares. And then, of course, stack them together and cut and paste and move things all around so you can make lots of interesting shapes out of them. So as I've picked this wedge of the building to work on, I've been trying to think through what exactly do I want everything to look like in that whole section all the way through. So, for example, in the front of the building here, I decided first that since I was going to go with this big circular structure, I was going to try to make it as circular as possible. And so I went through, and actually let me bring that over here. Yeah, that one. So I went through and I made myself this diagram. And basically the way that this worked, I'll make a new one just to show that, is let's say I want to make one that's 64 by 64. Use that size. Now I've got my new window, and I'm just going to grab the oval tool, and I'm going to grab the right color. No, that is not the right color. Yeah, pull my color tool over here. Grab the right color, and then I'm going to make a box. Alright, what's the deal here? Why am I getting the wrong color? Well, it doesn't matter. Well, it kind of does matter, actually. So let me grab my tools here. Yeah, there we are. Why is this causing me? There we go. Alright, now I'm going to zoom in a bit. Go up to my top corner, and then drag down, sliding over to my bottom corner, so that I can see the circle takes up the entirety of the space that I've got available here. Make a little more room. And now, what I'm going to do is scale this whole thing up so that it's 16 times the size that it used to be. And now what I've got is a box that is quite a lot bigger, right? All these things are now humongous. And so I'm going to count off using my pencil tool here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8. Then I'm going to zip over to the opposite corner and do the same thing. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8. I'm going to grab my oval tool. I'm going to change the color. Why is that not? There we go. And now I'm just going to drag from here all the way up to that other corner where I started. And you can't see it because it's off screen, but I know I'm still dragging. And then I finally let go of the mouse. And what I wind up with, as I zoom out, is you can see that cyan circle has now intersected the black circle, but at a much smaller scale. So if I come over here and change my grid settings so that the grid is now, say, yellow, and it's 16 pixels by 16 pixels, and save. Whoops, I need to display it as well. And show grid. There we go. Now I can get a pretty clear picture. Like if I had gone through and made that 64 by 64 meter circle, so the size of the whole building, I would be putting down these black blocks because they're the ones that make up the full-size Minecraft bricks. And then once I've made that, this is where I want to put down the glass in order to make the window. So I just need to count off and put them down, and I do it 1 meter at a time so that I'm sure I've got my counts right and whatnot. And yes, it's tedious, and yes, it takes a while. But in the end, what I wind up with is this, so that I've got the glass in exactly the right position. And then I counted off 6/16 outwards, and then just trimmed the rest of the stuff off what I had right there. So the way that would wind up looking is, we'll simulate it here with these two blocks. So I'm going to plop this block down here, and then I'm going to grab this guy and say I'm going to put a line down, and maybe it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, and 16. And then I can count off using this guy 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and then jump over. And now I can go through and trace out the same pattern, cutting away the bits that I don't want. Oops. And grab. Okay, so now I've separated this chunk from that chunk, and I can change my tool setting from line down to connected material, and then just left click, and it will pull off one layer at a time that extra bit that I've carved away. And so now I've got this block carved to follow the same contour as the shape, the window that I was doing before. So that's how I did all of these bricks, kind of one by one, got all of those lined up. The next thing is to get the window to be the full height. I took my Chisels and Bits positive chisel pattern and then just right-clicked on that, and now I've got that as the pattern. And you can see wherever I'm looking, it's going to offer to replace that block. And I can hold down my left Alt or Option key. Impose is going to remove material and add material to make it look exactly the way this one does, which is what it's doing right now. Replace is just going to remove material that doesn't belong. Add is going to just add material that's not there yet, only in spaces where there's empty air. It's not going to replace any blocks. And then placement just means I don't want to actually mess with the block I'm pointing at. I want to put this on top of that block. Now I'm right-clicking, nothing's happening because I don't have any blue glass bits. So I can just drop a glass down there, use this guy to say grab all the same material, left-click, scoops it all up, go back to my pattern, and now I can pop it down again. And I can just pop another one right on top, and on top, and on top, and make myself a steady wall of glass. So that's how I created those guys to be taller and taller. Okay, so let's look at the other things here. This little doorway, I think I've talked enough about doorways, but I added one block here that's double thickness. So that's a 2x2, 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 all the way through. And then I replaced just the top layer, and I replaced the outside layer there to make the doorway look like it has a little lintel. Here I just carved away one line chunk at a time to get the doorway to look like it has a nice little bezel to come into the room. Here, this wall, can see here's the full meter width. So I carved off 6 here and then just filled in the rest of the wall with stone. And then I used my same positive chisel template to be able to grab that. So clear the template, grab the wall, placement, boom. So there, now I've got a copy of that wall. So I'd made one of these blocks by crafting it carefully and then just used this to plop all the rest of them on without any extra effort. And then the same thing goes for the door. I carved this bottom one and then duplicated it to the top. So as you find that you've got a little pattern you want to repeat, it's easy enough to just come back again later and grab it with one of these templates and then reproduce it all over the place. The windows are a little harder, of course, because every block is just a little bit different as you go around the curve. So I'm kind of expecting this is going to be a really lengthy process. This lantern here, this is a immersive engineering lantern, just a plain old lantern. But you can see on the top there, it's kind of hanging from the ceiling. So the way that works is I just took some plain black granite and got it down to individual blocks, and then just traced out that little circular pattern and traced out this until it got down to exactly the difference between the 1 meter chunk which makes up the ceiling and the 1 meter chunk which is the next bit down again. So that, yeah, there we go. You can see the lantern doesn't know about chisels and bits. All it knows is it's going to go on the bottom of some block or the side or whatever. And so I made this come exactly down to where it's going to meet up with the bottom of the block. And therefore, when I put the lantern down, it looks like it's just connected exactly as you'd expect it to be connected. And the black granite makes a great choice because, of course, the textures match up. Looks very much the same as the material that the metal part of the lantern is made from. This floor is just plain old jungle planks, but in other places I've done something different. So you can see the ceiling up here is recessed by 1/2 meter, and what's really going on is that limestone is 1/4 of a meter thick, and then above it I've got some planks to represent the flooring of the room above. Let me take a quick nap here. Okay, moving on. In this room here, it's pretty much the same thing, except you can see this inner limestone circle coming through, and we'll walk upstairs and see what that's all about. Just a moment. Here, I've got the wall the same thickness all the way through, but I decided I didn't want to have a doorway because I'm going to have, a lot of traffic going through here to get to the staircase. And this staircase is definitely pretty amazing, if I say so myself. It took a lot of effort to figure out how to do this, and many false starts. So let me talk through the process of how I built this thing. I started by thinking, okay, I want a spiral staircase of some kind. And I made a few different attempts that just didn't go anywhere until I finally worked out that what I really wanted to do was start with this central beam. And you can see the central beam is 2 by 2, and then I extended each side one further. So I get this 4 by 4, or four dot diameter circle as a pole for the center. And I did just the bottom layer first, and then used my positive pattern to copy it upwards. Then I said, okay, I'm going to make the stairs so that the edges come cleanly across the middle of the block. So you can see, as I hover my mouse down there, the boundary of this block is right there. And so this cuts across right in the center. And so I started this line going all the way out. And then I knew I want each one of my stairs to be a 45-degree angle, 45 degrees of sweep from one step to the next step, because that simplifies things greatly. As you can see, the teeth kind of come together, so that this is just a stair step pattern, just simple stair step all the way from the center of this corner outwards, and that defined a region that I wanted this to be in, and then I just kind of came back and filled in the middle, mostly using this fill-in connected material to just extend it one strip at a time until I got the whole thing done. And once I had that, I came up and I did the same thing for up here. So this is just on the bit that's one below the halfway point, so it's the 8th bit up. And this one is at the 16th bit up, so that your character will naturally step that 1/2 meter up to get from one step to the next step. Once I had these two, I used the same kind of pattern I was showing before, using Pixin to draw circles and figure out exactly what the ratios have to be and such. And then I went and I made a full circle that went completely around. Later on, obviously, I removed this front section so you can get in. But to start with, I just did the whole thing. And you'll notice that this corner over here is going to match that corner over there, except for the stair where it comes in. And it's a mirror image of that corner over there. So I took advantage of this mirror chisel design to be able to do that. And the way this thing works is, let's say I've got this guy here. I'm going to click. Now he's copied the pattern in there. And you can see how much it needs. I'm going to throw that in there along with an empty pattern. And so now I've got this guy, which is going to start off like this. But now I can use my mouse wheel, hold down Shift and mouse wheel, to turn him around. So now I've mirrored him, rotated in various angles. And that allows me to shift things around a bit here. And I think this guy, yeah, I think that's how that works. I'm not entirely sure I've got that right, so maybe in the future I'll be able to clarify a little bit. Anyway, that gave me a full circle all the way around, and it gave me one stair step. So all I really needed to do at that point was use my positive chisel pattern to grab this thing, turn 90 degrees, and plop it down again. Turn 90 degrees and plop it down again. Turn 90 degrees and plop it down again. And I did that all the way up to the top of the staircase. And then I basically just did the same thing of copying this block and then moving it 90 degrees all the way around as I went up, and then the next corner and moving that around, and the next one, and the next one. There's a total of 9 blocks that are involved in the bottom level of this staircase. So basically I had to do 9 blocks worth. But there's a lot of symmetry, right? So this one here is the same as that one here, but oops, not quite that one because the stair intersects. So I skip 2 blocks and go up again. And so I was able to not have to do it quite as tediously as it sounds. But in the end, I've now got this really fantastically beautiful staircase. Now, for the ceiling, you can see what I was talking about before. The whole ceiling and floor of the room above takes up half a meter, but half of it is the limestone, which I wanted as the ceiling texture pattern for this room, and half of it is the jungle planks that I wanted as the texture for the floor of the room above. You couldn't do this without chisels and bits. I mean, you couldn't do any of this without chisels and bits, but I've tried with microblocks many, many times to get this kind of effect. And with Forge microblocks, you can have one pattern on top, but the next pattern has to be on the bottom of the 1 meter. So you can't have this half a meter space underneath here. Anyhow, once I got to the top, I just replicated the glass and then just, block by block, copied out the pattern to add that. Over here and over here, I repeated the same process for making the window, and then copied it down into the floor so that I've got the whole thing up here, and then went around, and here I basically just took my template, clicked the floor, and then went up and placed it on the top, and then clicked the next floor and then placed that on the top. I gotta say, this is very time consuming. It is definitely a lot of work to get all of this, but it looks so amazing, especially for what we're kind of used to seeing in Minecraft. So as I walk around to the other side here, you can see it really does look quite round. Then for the base, I more or less did kind of the same thing of just using that positive template to copy blocks that I had already made, which turns it back into the same kind of difficulty and time-consumingness of just regular Minecraft blocks. But you can see there are lots of them in there. And then here, I just filled in the extra with cobblestone. So, I happen not to have any right now, but I would come along and I just say, give me these grid-snapped half-size cubes, and any pieces that were missing, I just plop them in there. And in this mode, it's going to be additive, which is to say it's not going to replace anything. It's just going to fill in open spaces. And what that winds up meaning over here is I've got this little kind of wedge-shaped, arc-shaped room back here, which I have not decided at all what I'm going to do with. So if we fly up a little bit, we can see how the floor works there. We can see how it transitions to the structural stone element there, the beams going across basically. But you can't tell from this room up above because it just smoothly moves from one to the other, which is another thing I really, really enjoy. The ceiling on the top here, I wanted the top to look like limestone as well as the bottom, so fine, easy enough. Just make it a half meter thick. And decided, yeah, that's the line where I'm going to do this wedge of the building here. So now I've got this whole wedge of the building complete from one end to the other, right into the center. and looking pretty good, I think. I especially like the effect of the various circles, how this is a much broader circle and then tighter still, and it really seems to work super, super well. In the end, what we wind up with is this kind of circular stair-steppy sort of building that has a big fat section on the bottom and then a slightly narrower section, about half the width, on the top. And of course, this particular chunk of it is more or less dominated by this stairwell, but there's plenty of room to walk around one side or the other side. And ultimately, you can see this whole area inside of the stone, and this area on the inside of the limestone is going to make up the whole rest of this floor. And, I have no idea what I'm going to put up here yet, but I'll think of something. And then the glass allows you to kind of see straight through on both sides, which is super fun. All right, so I think that is what I have to say about this building so far. One thing that will be interesting to show is some of the items I've had to deal with. So here I am in my shrubland biome, which is a fairly mild biome as far as tough as nails is concerned. But in the wintertime, it does get cold enough where you're in danger of taking damage. And in the summertime, it gets pretty hot, and again, you're in danger of taking damage. So I went ahead and made myself some wool boots. Basically, this is armor that doesn't do much in the way of protection, you can see, but it does change your warmth quite a bit. So it adds a pretty substantial adjustment to staying warm. And I've started collecting slime and ice in order to make these jellied slime blocks, which then you can turn into jellied slime armor, which, again, doesn't do much in the way of protecting you, but it does a lot in the way of keeping you cool. So I've been working on collecting the pieces for those. Just a moment, let me take a nap here. Okay, now, that's what's going on with that. As far as food is concerned, I've slowly been collecting more and more odds and ends, and so now I've got a pretty decent pantry here. This is a ground trap from Pam's Harvest Craft, and all you need to do is put some grain bait in there, which is just any kind of grain, so wheat is what I've been using, a little bit of string that gives you some bait, and then this stuff just shows up. You don't have to go hunting, you don't have to do any of the animal husbandry stuff. Honestly, it's kind of a little bit cheating, and I feel a little conflicted about having it in the mod pack at all, because it's, kind of a little too convenient. But whatever, I haven't decided to get rid of it yet in any case. What else to say? Oh, this is a rain collector, so eventually you get thirsty, and you need to drink, and you can fill your canteen from any given water block. But if you do that, you're going to wind up with dirty water in your canteen, and you can drink it, but it gives you a lot less satisfaction. It cures a lot less of your thirst, and it makes it likely you're going to get a thirst effect. Whereas using this rain collector, you're going to be able to cure your thirst a lot better. It cures like twice as many points or something, and there's no possibility of it giving you thirst. And this is the only way, short of boiling your water in a furnace, of getting clean water to drink. You can also make fruit juices, and I haven't yet gotten started on that, but sadly Tough as Nails doesn't recognize Pam's fruit juices as being thirst quenching, which is fortunately one of the issues on the mod on the issue tracker for that mod. So I think sooner or later they'll get there. Yeah, I think that's about it. That's what I've been up to. I plan to continue next by, I think, expanding into this middle section. Because my plan here is to have this whole section actually elevated above the ceiling level here, and to have it be a glass ceiling with kind of an arch, just a low oval arch above. And that way, this is all kind of a sunlit area down there. And then this section starting here is going to be back to not this glass, but rather it'll be just that bottom layer of glass, and then I'll do something very much like that little wood railing on top of it. So I'll have like a little railing here. The glass will extend all the way to the edge of the house, and then you'll be able to look down and see up above. And this floor here will be done the same way as this. And I'll coat the top of this support structure here with that sort of ceiling, and I'll put the limestone down underneath to be the ceiling for underneath. And probably I'll do some kind of arch as you come into there. Anyway, still contemplating. So that's it for this time. If you like the video, go ahead and hit like. If you want to know when the next video is ready, go ahead and hit subscribe. And I will talk to you later.